Kuzampo and a very warm welcome to Bhutan This Week, a weekly news magazine program with me, Samtan Dolkar. Our top stories this week. Prime Minister asks UN leaders for global support to make climate-resilient pathways by 2030 and ensuring net zero emissions by 2050. Minimum child safety and protection protocol in all primary schools in the offing. And Narang rises stronger from the rubbles of 2009. Now the news in detail. Prime Minister Dr. Lote Tshering presented to the UN Climate Action Summit the LDC's plans of making climate-resilient pathways by 2030 and ensuring net zero emissions by 2050. Bhutan is the chair of least developed countries. The Prime Minister also asked the global community to invest $450 million as support over the next 10 years to realize the plans.
Prime Minister Dr. Lote Tshering called on the world leaders to submit enhanced climate pledge and long-term low greenhouse emission strategies by 2020. He said LDCs are ready with enhanced nationally determined contributions, national adaptation plans and long-term low-carbon climate resilient strategies by 2020.
LDCs can do it. You can see the example of Bhutan. We're a small mountainous country, but with the visionary leadership of our kings, we are carbon negative today. Many decades back, when we used to talk about forest of Bhutan, we always talked about environment. We never talked about climate change because we didn't realize it will come so soon. But yet, our far-sighted visionary kings have clearly spelled out in our constitution that Bhutan must at least have 60% of our country under forest cover. And today we have 72%. And most of these forests, thank you. And most of these forests is actually protected legally as biological corridors and national parks.
The Prime Minister told the world leaders that he fears he would not be able to hand over the lush green forest, snow-capped mountains and crisp rivers of Bhutan to her next generation if the world does not commit to act now to address climate change. The Prime Minister also reminded the world leaders that 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature limit under the Paris Agreement is not enough and that the least developed countries are disproportionately affected by the impacts of climate change. Prime Minister attended the United Nations Climate Action Summit in New York yesterday ahead of the UN General Assembly. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres called the world leaders to come with concrete and realistic plans to implement Paris Agreement, which mandates member countries to maintain global temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius by reducing carbon emissions. Pupgame for BBS News.
People who are deaf often face difficulties in getting education and achieving success. This is not because of their deafness, but due to how society treats them. Celebrating the International Week for the Deaf, students of Wangsil Institute for the Deaf pleaded the community to include deaf people by learning sign language. The institute believes creating awareness on sign language can defeat discrimination against deaf community.
Only 118 students were enrolled with Wangsil Institute for the Deaf in Paro after establishment in 2003. This year saw only 3 new students. This, according to the teachers, is because either the parents are embarrassed or some are unaware of the existence of the institute.
There are parents who still fear to tell about the deaf children, especially because of stigma and discrimination by the society. And there are parents who are ashamed of deaf children and they delay the admission in the institute.
Most of the parents don't support their deaf children these days. I come here every day with my son and I can see parents who leave their children at school. They don't come to visit their children. I request them to give their children a little support.
Researchers show that if children do not acquire a first language in the early years, a child cannot be fluent in any language. So, the early intervention by the parents is crucial.
For those children who can hear and talk has ECCD centers from an early age to develop their language. And for the deaf, we don't have it. They don't get to learn language from an early stage. So when they come to Wangsil at the age of 22, it becomes difficult to learn sign language.
The institute provides basic sign language classes for 5 months before starting their formal education. Some parents who support and are proud of the deaf children say the institute has changed their lives. Even parents learn sign language every Friday.
I didn't know how to communicate with my son. I didn't understand him. After I admitted him here, we both learned sign language, so it's easier to communicate now. If we enroll them here in Wangsil, it helps a lot. They can do everything. They even have job opportunities. If in villages, they are kept working in fields. Here, they get to do everything they want.
They say deaf children do not receive love and respect they deserve. These parents and teachers believe that learning sign language and communicating with deaf students is the only way of giving them the dignity. This year, deaf community in the world celebrated the first International Day for Sign Language.
Then they say that they stay in the room watching TV. And I say, why? And the reason they gave is like their family members, they cannot communicate with them because they do not know sign language. Deaf people also, they have the right to their language. If they have the sign language and if the community can sign, then there we give an inclusion to the deaf people.
10 deaf students also joined the celebration at the institute. The International Week for the Deaf is celebrated from 23rd till 29th September. The week was first launched in 1958 by the World Federation of the Deaf. For Sangichezom in Paro, Pema Saldun Singh, PBS News.
The waste drop-off center located below Kelki School in Thimphu will soon be upgraded to a high-tech waste segregation and recycling unit. This is to tackle the issue of dumping of mixed wastes at the center, which makes collection, transportation and recycling difficult. The works to implement the project began on Wednesday with a joint seminar between the Green Technology Center of Korea, the National Environment Commission and the Thimphu Tomde.
With support from the Green Technology Center, machines such as conveyor belts, hopper, magnetic separators and collection bins will be installed at the drop-off center. Today, wastes brought to the center are manually segregated. As a result, most food wastes generated in Thimphu Tromde is dumped at the landfill without proper segregation. The project will be executed at a cost of 6 million Newton and is expected to be complete within a year's time. If successful, such a center will be established in other districts as well.
We want to try to do technology demonstration in drop-off center in the Thimphu city. So we want to apply some advanced sorting facility in the drop-off center, and then we want to evaluate that technology with our the Bhutanese entities like a research group and also NGOs.
The center will also assist in developing national guidelines for drop-off centers and landfills. This is expected to address the issues related to post-closure of a landfill.
In East Songkhla we have landfills. Actually, those are not proper landfills. We have, it's more like an open dumping thing. We don't have liners. We don't have leachate collection system, proper leachate collection system. We also don't have methane collection system. So those landfills, we have to close it at some point of time. So with their assistance and technical expertise and also some financial resources from them, we are developing a guideline for this landfill, basically a post-closure landfill guideline. So the basic things that we need to do when we close a landfill.
The collaboration is an outcome of a memorandum of understanding signed between the Royal Government of Bhutan and the Government of Korea in 2017. The agreement looks at promoting climate technology to achieve low carbon waste management in the two countries. Meanwhile, during the joint seminar, the Thimphu Trompen shared 9 additional drop-off centers will be established in the Tromde soon. The initiative is to manage waste through segregation. This is Sringdanda for BBS News.
Taking lessons from the recent horrific misfortunes involving children, the government is working on instituting a minimum child safety and protection protocol in all primary schools. This is expected to safeguard and promote the welfare of children. The Education Ministry, the National Commission for Women and Children, and the Department of Local Governance will work jointly and present the protocols to the Cabinet by the end of this month for review.
Leading the initiative, Health Minister Dechin Wongmo said, instituting a system in place will protect children and ensure their safety. She said that a child rearing has to be a shared responsibility to provide that safe environment for children to grow and thrive.
If we look at our current scenario, current system, the context, a child as young as 6-year-old are sent off. Moment the school bell rings, they have to leave. They have to manage their own transport. And then we started questioning ourselves, is that the right age to be taking responsibility, shouldering that responsibility? And then who is responsible? No? Then we realize there are gaps in our system.
The protection system is expected to build and maintain a proactive environment that protects children by either preventing child abuse before it occurs or by ensuring its earlier possible detection, intervention, and reporting. It will engage parents, teachers, and all stakeholders to come together to prioritize a child's safety.
They can form groups, where, a group of parents will take turn to drop them off. And these modalities will eventually be decided by individual schools. But there should be a requirement that a child should not be unsupervised, leaving school unsupervised. So this is one. Second one is I was looking at some other countries as well. In other countries, they have found this buddy program very effective. So we were seeking even having Ajim Acho programs in schools where the older children take responsibility of the younger ones. So all these things, I think we have to have a very holistic approach to looking at this.
Child abuse and neglect, particularly sexual abuse, are among the world's most serious concerns according to the International Center for Assault Prevention. In Bhutan, the Office of Attorney General received and prosecuted nearly 20 cases of rape of a minor since 2015. Sonampem for BBS News.
What has been otherwise a perennial problem in Sarpang is expected to be addressed soon. The flooding of Shetikari in Gelifu and Aipoli streams, especially in monsoon, is planned to subside following the interventions through the technical report on flood hazard assessment and development of climate resilient measures. The report was launched recently.
This time, the Works and Human Settlement Ministry has come up with a comprehensive report for the situation. Millions of Nyultrum have been spent annually for the program, but to no avail. The approaches, so as to say, have been recurrent.
Proper study has not been conducted in terms of where the actually erosions are taking place, where this huge amount of debris sediments are coming from, and what makes actually those structures fall. Because most of the structures there has been either constructed this year and then it gets eroded next year, or the scouring happens and then the walls collapses. So not much studies has been conducted in the past, proper studies.
The current technical study is inclusive of detailed hydrological, geotechnical and economic aspects. Following this, the report recommends of a structural measures such as construction of a huge sediment trap and structures along the course to control lateral and bed erosions.
With this study and the measures that we have come up after the study, we'll be able to actually resist or take the flooding along its course and will not impact the human settlement or infrastructure and also the agricultural land.
Recommendations also include plantation of trees at the sources of the rivers.
The new infrastructure that we propose will be placed in the right location because we have considered the morphological characteristics of the stream, and also mainly because the debris will be controlled at the upper part of the stream.
The Works and Human Settlement Ministry developed the report with assistance from the World Bank. It has been handed over to Gelefo Thomde and the Dzongkhag administrations for the necessary actions. For Karmawandi and Sarpong, Kelsang Choran for BBS News.
Now, most Bhutanese remember the 21st of September 2009. It was the day that shook the country. 13 lives were lost and many properties damaged. The worst hit by the 6.1 magnitude earthquake was Narang-geog in Mongar. And today, a decade later, the geog has risen from the rubble stronger amidst the lessons brought by the devastating disaster.
When this newly built BHU couldn't resist the wrath of nature, the stone and mud houses of the villagers stood no chance. The houses have collapsed and cracks formed everywhere. Most of the villagers came out just
Today, the damaged BHU is replaced with a new one which is more resilient and equipped with better facilities. Dongchuwangdi has been with Narang BHU as its health assistant since the 2009 earthquake. Witnessing the post-earthquake changes, he recalls how things have improved.
Compared to the old PHU, we now have better and spacious rooms to keep the medical equipment. Earlier, space was limited and we faced a lot of inconveniences providing services to the people.
Similarly, people have rebuilt their lives. New houses have mushroomed in place of those reduced to rubbles.
Some victims built two-story houses, but some of them built only a bungalow. Out of despair and for their own safety, though they could afford bigger ones. Despite getting support from His Majesty the King and Royal Insurance Corporation of Bhutan, some victims could not afford to build a proper shelter for themselves.
The geog also has new concrete earthquake-resistant school buildings. Before the disaster struck, the facility was made out of mud and stones. Today, with the normalcy already restored, the 2009 earthquake has become pretty much a distant memory. However, the victims remain ever grateful and pay homage to His Majesty the King and express gratitude to the fellow Bhutanese who came together for them in their times of distress. Meanwhile, the geog administration insists on conducting proper advocacy programs on earthquake and other natural disasters. Not many are still aware of how to react during such a time.
There
is a need to create awareness on various natural disasters. This task, although the geog administration is supposed to carry out, we are not trained. We experienced an earthquake, but we still did not get any formal training on its management. Under such a circumstance, it is difficult to conduct disaster awareness programs.
The 2009 earthquake in Narang killed at least 5 people and damaged over 200 houses, including a school, BHU, and monasteries. For Sonam Singh in Mongar, this is Pasang Doji for BBS News.
Despite the potential, the production of local yarns in the country has not been as expected. This is mainly due to lack of coordination between its sellers and buyers. Bridging this gap, a business meet between the two was organized in Thimphu recently.
Sellers of yarn from places as far as Sakteng are here in Thimphu to build a direct contact with the buyers. They said so far they have been producing yarns only for personal use. They were not aware of its demand in the market.
We never produce yarns for a commercial purpose. We were surprised to know there is a demand for local yarns. People are now interested to produce more yarns. And if the business goes well, then it will also help revive our sheep rearing culture.
Similarly, most buyers have been importing yarns to meet the growing demand.
Before, it's like very hard to contact with the seller, that yarn seller. We don't get contract from them. But today in our workshop, we know each other. So we are asking the yarn like pricing and costing. So it's easier for us.
The meet is expected to establish formal business deals among the buyers and sellers. This, in a way, will address the concerns related to quality, price and costing of the locally produced yarns.
Under the EU project, we are supposed to make products using local yarns. Currently, we are making bed sheets, pillow covers and tablecloths. So, with the Agency for Promotion of Indigenous Crafts bringing the sellers from Sakteng, Yurung and Pemagasal here, we can discuss and negotiate the prices.
Recognizing the potential in the production of local yarns, the Agency for Promotion of Indigenous Craft is encouraging the local sellers to scale up their production.
Till now, like our farmers, our community members, they have been producing for themselves only. It's for just for home consumption and then just for like making their own apparels and all. But then now with the rising trend, like recently, like from this project, what we have done is like we have a collection called capsule collection, and then for this collection, like we want to make handmade textiles, which is 100% made in Bhutan. So for that, like the trend for the local yarn is increasing now.
Apart from resolving marketing and production issues, the meet is also to encourage yarn producers to keep alive the tradition of producing local yarns of nettle, cotton, sheep wool and yak fur. The Agency for Promotion of Indigenous Craft, with support from the European Union, is organizing the meeting. Kiletem for BBS News.
Now, getting a haircut is the last thing on our mind when we are sick in a hospital. But when the service comes to you, one can't help than to get a haircut. Ugen Deepak, a barber by profession, along with a group of hairdressers from Thimphu, initiated a free haircut community service for the patients at the National Referral Hospital recently.
Most of these patients never thought they would get a haircut while in hospital. This is a unique experience for them since hospitals do not have salons. The team chose 30 patients today who have been here for at least a month and they are too sick to move around. A group of 6 barbers provided the service. What the team here do is all from kindness. The need to pay back to the community brought them here together today. Keeping in mind the importance of hygiene and cleanliness of the patients, the group came up with the idea to provide the needy patients with a free haircut.
Entire family the programs
The entire Wawa community of Thimphu planned to come up with an initiative to provide free haircut to patients. The hospital accepted our request for this service. Since most of the patients cannot visit salons to get haircuts, the free service we provided today made them happy and the program was a success.
We are here today in a hospital just to give a social service. I have been working in Thimphu for last 10 years. Today we got the initiative to serve and give a free haircut to needy, those who are needy in patient in hospital. We are very much thankful to the government of Bhutan, Royal Government of Bhutan, that they have given us opportunity, and today it's time for us to come forward and serve the country.
This generation really values convenience above all else. The group plans to continue the service at least once a month hereafter. Its mobile barbering is like Uber but for haircuts. This is Ishtoji for BBS News.
Well, that's all we have for this week. Please do join us next week. Until then, this is Samtan Dolkar saying goodbye.